I remember how much it used to pain me to go a day sober. Going a few days without my substances always felt like it was life or death. Like, I can't do this, I can't survive. The anxiety, the stress, it would be building up inside me and eating me alive every second of the day. Without that substance to keep me warm and comfortable and calm my anxiety and my nerves, my own stress, my own body would eat at me. It would be saying to me, I can't do this. I won't be able to manage without my substances. We just need to go get it. We need it bad. And it would be egging me on to go to the store. And I'd be trying my hardest to hold in for hours at a time. This is day one, I think. Come on, I need to do this. If I can't do this, I'm never going to be able to get to the next day. So instead of sitting with the pain, sitting with the very raw emotions that would keep me down, the anxiety, the guilt, the embarrassment, the shame, I would go back to the store and pick up a substance that would quell those emotions, that would quiet them down for me. Nothing else could do it, I thought. After taking all those emotions in and sitting with them for almost half of the day, almost making progress, almost getting a step farther in my sobriety journey, almost getting past day one, I would resort back to the things I was trying to run away from. Every single time on this day one, I would crumble. And I knew that the drugs were the reason for these emotions and the way I was feeling. But I also knew that they were the reason they kept me safe, sane, comfortable, relaxed, and sedated. So it was a real toss-up. Am I going to allow myself to feel all this bad, raw emotions? Or am I going to take care of it and quiet them down and reassure myself that, you know what, it's not that bad, it's okay. I'm just gonna have a little bit more tonight. I was sitting with myself, the man who hadn't been sitting with himself for years, but who had been sitting and numbing himself with drugs. And when I was with this man, this broken man, a man who felt like he had nothing, a man who felt all alone, a man who felt like he couldn't rely on anybody but the drugs. And the drugs is now what he's trying to run away from. He felt crazy. He felt insane. This version of me, he felt like a broken piece of glass, shattered in a million pieces. And he felt like if he tried for his whole life to put those pieces back together, he would never be able to. I found myself when I was trying to recover, I couldn't really ever do new things. It was hard to do things that filled my time with, that were good. I still spent 100% of my time alone. So it would be, I would work out, and that would make me feel great. And then after my workout, I would be contemplating all day what to do now. What am I gonna do now? You know what's on my mind? I should go to the store and get some drugs. No, I can't do that. I just had a workout. I'm trying to improve my life. But what are you gonna do now? And you know what I would do? I would pace in my room for hours at a time. This was the most common thing I ever did. Pace in my room back and forth. I would talk to myself. I would negotiate with myself. And I would ask myself, is this what I want to do? I would be debating with myself all night long. The thoughts that I need more substances, the thoughts that I need to go back to the drugs, the thoughts that I can't leave it, the thoughts that my life isn't worth living anymore, my thoughts that I'm a broken man, I can never be fixed, the thoughts that would hold me down and think that I should end my life were there. Maybe I should just keep doing drugs until I end my life, I thought. The load of these emotions would be so heavy. I would carry around such a heavy load every day. Felt like 100 pounds I was carrying in my chest. Maybe even more. But the weight of my emotions were so heavy every single time I would crumble to them under their weight. And I would drag myself back to the weed store, back to the alcohol store. And when I got there, it was nothing but shame, guilt, and embarrassment. And I couldn't even lift my head all that high. I was defeated once again for the 100th time in a row. There was nothing I felt like I could ever do. I felt like I had very little reason to get sober. It was always, I gotta get my life back together. I gotta do this. I can't live like this. But what is the normal life going to provide me with anyways, I would think? It's just gonna make me feel stressful, guilty, shame. Or I could just hide away with my drugs and quell and quiet down all those bad raw emotions with my substance use. and I can just float away and be nothing. I'm nothing to anyone. I don't have anyone else in my life. What does it matter? What does it matter if I do nothing? So it was really a big war going on inside of me. It was hard for me to determine whether or not it was worth it after all my efforts. I didn't felt like I had a family. I didn't felt like I had a life. I didn't felt like I really had many options left in my life. I felt like my life was coming to an end and there was nothing I can do about it. When I was getting sober and I would try to spend my days trying to do new things, it was so difficult because I would just end up doing the same things I would used to do while I was under the influence of drugs. Not new things, but the old things. Like play video games, watch movies, watch TV. I thought I would just need to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that to get through it. But that never helped because it would still give me the thoughts of, wouldn't this be better under the influence? I still feel this stress, guilt, and anxiety, this sharp, heavy load of pain that would strike me whenever I thought about it. Whenever I would get up from my chair and I wouldn't be distracted anymore, I would think, oh yeah, this is real life right now. I can't stay here in this. It's so terrible like this. And then I would run off and scurry to the store and get my load of substances. Usually I would always try and quit my substances when I ran out of them because I couldn't do it while I had them on me. Whenever I would try to quit the substances while I had them on me, I would always go to them. I would always just turn to them immediately. I used to start my days smoking out of my vape pen. I used to start my days drinking the bottle of wine. I used to spend my days completely alone with nobody in my life. Not a soul, just me. Nobody knows how I feel. They just know I'm probably a broken man. I had no support. I had no one but myself. And myself's not even good enough to go a day sober. That was the hardest part about recovery. Was doing it all alone. Having no one but myself to figure it out. Not talking to a single person, nothing. Sitting with my raw emotions 24/7. I couldn't take it. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't do it by myself. I almost ended my life because of it. I'm sometimes surprised that I get to stand here as a sober man talking about my story. Because I just never saw a day where I would be sober like this. When I did get sober and I did get on the right track like I am now, it was easy. It wasn't hard like every other time. Like the 1,000 times I had done it before. So what changed? Well, I changed my environment, for one. And I stopped doing it alone. I moved out of my dad's house, came back home, and I got to be with my real family again. I spent a lot more time getting out of the house with my mother. And although I hated it, I was so socially anxious and insecure about myself. Getting out of my environment at my house and just spending time away from the drugs, it was very difficult. But to have someone there who would take me away from everything. She would take me to the beach, she would take me out to a cabin, she would take me out to a park, and just spend time with me. And it was hard, because the whole time I would be thinking about drugs. I would feel all these raw, heavy emotions. But I still had someone with me. Someone who I felt like, okay, maybe I can do this now. Maybe I can somewhat achieve this. Even if after when we get home, I know I'm just gonna go to the store. I won't be consuming as much as I used to. And slowly, I weaned off of it. But I never completely weaned off of it. I then started going out to my cabin. And I would meet people and I would spend a lot more time around people. Which was new to me. I was quite alien to this. After years of social withdrawal and complete isolation, where I would just spend all my time consuming drugs by myself, talking with myself, and just embarrassing myself in my own mind. I was quite ashamed and insecure of the person I was. But I started spending more time with people, new people who don't know who I am, people who don't know the struggles I've been through. And it was almost like this protective barrier where I didn't need to tell them what I was going through or how I was feeling, but I could spend my time around them. And it made me feel almost relieved and not as guilty because these people don't know who I am. And I'm enjoying the company of them. And you know what? They're keeping me distracted in a healthy way. I feel like I'm quite alive right now. around these people. And yes, I would go and I would do my drugs there with them. Not with them, but on my own. At night, I would sneak out of the cabin while we had another family there, and I would smoke a little bit of weed and come back. Or I would drink still a little bit. I'd stop consuming nearly as much as I used to, because I used to go through 1.5 liters of wine every day. I would smoke at least 4 grams of weed every day. In this point in my life, I was consuming maybe a glass or 2 of wine a day, and maybe 1 or 2 smokes, which was a great improvement for me. It wasn't easy to get to that number. It took a lot. But it almost felt like I had started replacing my bad habits with these good ones. I had been socially withdrawn from everything for so long that getting this social connection was so fulfilling for me. I almost loved it more than anything. I missed it, really, because the social isolation part of my drug use was such a big thing for me. It was so hard to do this all by myself, every day for years. No one knowing how I really felt. But when I got out of that social isolation bubble and I started reconnecting with the rest of the world, I felt almost more invigorated to be alive. And I met this nice, beautiful woman. And I almost felt encouraged to push myself more. Okay, I don't need the substances today. And then I slowly started to really wean off of it. It was when I got to be around people that I got the courage, the confidence, and the better, more encouraging emotions that I could do things. And you know what they say, you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I spent no time with anyone but myself. And I went crazy. I would talk to myself, and I would discourage myself, and I would be insecure all by myself. I would throw things at me, and I would bully myself. It was just me in my life. Only me. That was the hardest part. And then I ended up getting a job. I worked at a scare house. And I was like, okay, for this job, I'm going in sober. And that's what I did. I had a goal in mind now. I'm going to be working with people. And I kind of blew up out of my shell of being insecure and introverted. I started connecting with people, talking with them. I figured, you know what? If I'm still alive and I get to talk with these people, I'm going to do as best as I can. And I did. I did a 10 out of 10 job with connecting with these people socially. I would just wave at people, high five them, give them fist bumps, smile at them, make small talk with conversations with beautiful women, and just small talks with people in general. I would just turn around. If I was standing in line to sign in, I would turn around and talk to the person behind me. Even if it meant nothing to them, I would start up a conversation. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, the conversations went well. I only had 1 or 2 bad conversations. And I was like, when I would reflect on how the conversations went, and I was like, yeah, there was 1 bad, but every other conversation went well. Man, I'm actually making progress here. And you know what? That progress, not being socially isolated, not relying on the drugs to get me through this, felt fucking fantastic. I'd almost forgotten what kind of a social character I was. And I would get home at night after my long shift. I would get home at 12 at night. And yeah, I would still spark up a joint. But that only lasted for about a week. And then after that, I stopped. I was like, I don't need it anymore. I weaned off of it completely. It took me a long time. But it was when I got back into that social environment, back into the real world, stopped withdrawing from society, stopped engaging and consuming in all the bad habits that I was, and just doing more with my time and my day and putting more important things in my day, things I felt like were important and moving the needle forward, is when I was able to engage in the recovery a lot easier. So the hardest part about recovery for me was doing it all alone. Couldn't ever imagine doing it alone. Not again. I think relying on people to help you get through very hard times is what people are for. I mean, doing all these things by yourself, it's such a life-draining task. Handling all these raw emotions by yourself is so absolutely draining, dreadful, and you almost feel cursed to be alive. It was almost like I found that reason to that why. Why should I quit drugs? Why should I stop? And I felt like I knew what it was. It was the social connection I wanted all along, the social connection I needed all along. I had a why now, a really big why I wanted to quit substance use. I want to reconnect with people. I want people back in my life. You know what? I want a girlfriend. And it was almost like now I had a reason to push through any bad relapses, any bad attempts to crush me down. I found myself a reason to keep going, to connect with others. And the easiest part about recovery was that I didn't have to do it alone. I had help with other people along the way. Other people encouraged me, supported me, and gave me confidence. Even if they didn't realize they were helping me at the time. Spending time with them giving me compliments, them wanting to spend time with me. All of these things, they added to the reason why I eventually got sober. It was because I was no longer handling it alone. Every other time for years that I tried to do it alone, I was never as successful as when I did it with other people. When other people would be by my side, be in my life, it was so much more easier. And it was almost easy for me to find new things to do with my time at this point. Oh, yeah, I know I wanted to record videos. I started recording videos. That was a while back. And I started editing again. I started working out 6 times a week. I started looking forward to things that I could do. I started getting out of the house, doing karaoke. I started just spending my time in healthy places and wanting more for my life than just a hit of drugs. And that's what I got. And I could have only done it with other people's help. So that was kind of my story about how I'm sober now today. And when I tell you, I'm still alone in my day. Like today, I'll probably spend today completely alone. I don't have friends, but I do have the want and desire to be around people, to engage with them and connect with them, make them laugh, love them, and just share time with them. When I tell you that's a want and desire I have, it really is. I love spending time with people. I love talking with them. Being alone like I do most days, it's normal for me. I spent so long alone. But it's almost like a reward, a treat. It fulfills this social connection of mine that I need to not only... I need to be expressive. I need to be connected with others now. I can't not. And I'm glad that I have someone in my life who I get to share that with now. I have this beautiful girlfriend who doesn't make me feel alone anymore. So I'm grateful for her. But I'm even more grateful that I'm not alone anymore. If you're struggling with this, and you're really in the tough times, you're in the trenches of your sobriety journey, and you're at that point where it's too hard to even get past day one. But if you're at that point where it's just you're trying to do this all by yourself, I know the feeling, and it's not easy. It's really difficult. It's life-draining. It's so taxing on you. You almost feel like there's no point. I encourage you, please leave a comment down below. Tell me your story. Tell me how you get through your day. Tell me, have you gone past day one yet? Are you still struggling? I think I can help you out. I have a free Discord down below. I would love to chat in there, connect with you there, talk with you about how we can work through it. Because I know how difficult it is to do this all alone. It's not easy when you're managing all of this by yourself. When you're in the trenches. When everything feels hopeless. When it's a life-ending decision whether or not you should go a day sober. I've been there. Check out the link in the description. You can book a call with me if you'd like. It's free. If you are alone and struggling, the best thing you can do for yourself is ask for some help. It may seem like a tough challenge, but you know what's tougher? Going more days alone by yourself trying to figure it out. Saying, you know what, I can do this. But every time you can do that and think you can, you always crumble back because the drugs call you back. You're up against such a formidable enemy. It's tough to battle it alone. Anyways, I encourage you, check down the links in the description, leave a comment down below. If you've made it this far in the video, please comment, like, and subscribe. This has been my story about the hardest parts about my recovery journey and how I ended up getting sober again. This has been Anthony, and I approve of this message. See ya.